Um, so, this is me, the slightly overweight, balding, fat guy from Australia. Now, I am very typical of most Australian men my age. I am just overweight, into the overweight category. And I'm fighting this problem that my waistline keeps getting bigger and bigger. We like to call ourselves the lucky country, and we think of ourselves as a healthy country. Increasingly, we are not. My city, Brisbane, will be hosting the Olympic Games in 2032. But that is just the warm-up for the real event, the Paralympics, which are we have a young disability researcher in a wheelchair. He keeps saying it's only the warm-up for the real event when the wheelchair games begin. But so feel free to come to my city. We are having a national conversation about our health and our well-being. And it relates to our transport systems, how we manage our transport systems, how we fund our transport systems, and what we expect of them. So we have done lots of research in my group. We've just wound up a 20-year Centre of Excellence called the Cities Research Institute that has just finished. We had a good run, but we're at the end. Our university is not as rich as it used to be, so we no longer have our as much central funding as Thammasat is giving to these initiatives. But I just want to start with, why did we get into the mess we're in? And this is a mess that Thailand is in, many Asian cities are in. And I want to talk about how urban planning as a profession began as a response to the ills of the modernist city that was emerging, of factories. Melbourne was the wealthiest city in the world in 1885. And yet a sixth of the city was slums. Poverty housing, informal housing, great squalor, overcrowding. Where do I need to point? And there were lots of people saying how we could improve cities. This included radical Frenchman Le Corbusier, all the architects in the room. You should be bowing down, you know. Corbu was kind of the patron saint of architecture, and he had plans for what to do to Paris, the center of Paris. He wanted to do these kinds of things to Paris. Look, big monumental boulevards for this new technology, the motor car, that would allow people to live in green fields somewhere safe and healthy and come into the city. The Americans took these ideas, and the motor car companies promoted them. They brought this giant model that was as bigger than this stage to my city throughout the 1940s and 50s. And they would bring it every year to my city and to other Australian cities, promoting these ideas of this new, healthy city where we would all drive everywhere and where land uses would be separated. So industry and work would be far from home, but also shopping would now be far from home. Schooling would now be far from home. You would have to drive everywhere. And we started building these ideas in Australian cities. We separated out our land uses, and that was good for the really toxic industries. For really toxic industries, good. Get them away from people's houses. But for the other businesses and things, it was dumb. And we increasingly separated housing so that it became very homogenous. That means the only thing in the suburb is housing. There's almost nothing else. I lived here for a week earlier this year, house sitting for a friend. This is a new suburb on the fringe of Brisbane called Griffin. This is not the wealthiest suburb, this is middle income. But Australia is building crazy suburbs like this. Now this one is lucky, there's a footpath. There's actually a footpath here. This one is okay, it's not bad. But we are building the biggest houses in the world. So the private space is becoming very large in Australia, but this is coming partly at the impoverishment of the public space. So Australians now have the most expensive houses in the world. We're about to overtake Hong Kong and Singapore in Sydney. according to the demography studies just released. And to allow this to happen, Australians now spend on average an hour every day doing this. And for many Australians, twice that. 2 hours of this. I don't know what the Thai word for traffic jam is, but my city has increasingly bad traffic congestion. We're now in the top 10 worst in the world. Yay! And if you don't know, sitting in traffic is one of the most unhealthy behaviours you can do. And worse, our fleet is almost all what I call stink cars. We use nice language far too much. We talk about internal combustion engine cars. We need to reframe the language. We need to fight a political fight. And we need to say these are stink cars. They are hurting human health. They are polluting our cities. And we need to transition away from them. And we don't need to be polite. We need to be rude. We need to actually cause some offence and make people upset that they own and drive stink cars. I am no longer apologetic to my friends. I'm very much in their face and saying, "Oh, so you're still driving a stink car, are you?" to my friends. And they're like, "Oh, how dare you say this, Matthew? Oh, blah, 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 blah." And I'm like, well, think about it. The other thing that Australians have the biggest in the world almost, I think, I'm trying to get statistics on this. It's very hard to compare car fleets around the world. We're in the top 3 in the world for the biggest cars in the world. And the latest that we're getting are these American-style tanks. This is my car on the left, the MG4 electric vehicle. I really quite like my car. I'm a car owner. I tried to live in suburban Australia without a car. No girl would date me. No girl would date me. It was impossible to live a life like that. But you don't have to have a car like this and be a fully realised male human. If you have a deficiency in your life, you probably want one of these. So we are being overwhelmed with these. They're really good at parking in bicycle lanes. They're really good at not fitting in a standard car space. We are now expanding the design in the rules for car spaces to accommodate these giant, huge things. So we're actually now taking away car space from everybody else. We'll have less car spaces in the city so that we can fit these big, huge, stupid things from America, which are really good at killing people, especially pedestrians. But my government has an import regulation that says this is a safe vehicle. This, according to the stated policy of the import standards for Australia, which are designed to give Australians safe vehicles, this is a safe vehicle. It even gets points because on the very top lid here, if a human was ever to be able to hit their head on the top of it, you don't with this vehicle. You get squashed underneath. But if you did, the bonnet has a little bit of give. So you actually get safety points under our safety rules for a safety feature that is completely useless because the car will have crushed the pedestrian in a different way. We also have the highest street speeds in the world for our local streets. There's about 4 countries in the Western world left, in the wealthy world, the OECD, left, with 50k per hour street speeds in local streets. Most of Europe is now 30 kilometres per hour. Washington, DC, all its local streets are 20 miles per hour, 32 kilometres per hour. Denver, even Denver has gone 32 kilometres per hour. So Australian cities are way out of whack. There's us, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and New Zealand, and Australia and New Zealand work as one. So we're really dumb on this. This means it's really unsafe to ride a bicycle, and the street speeds are very high, and so we have lots of pedestrian and bicycle accidents. We're also really, really stupid in that we're very reliant on overseas fuel. Australia has almost no oil and gas. We have gas, but almost no petroleum fuels. So we get it from almost, a lot of it comes from Singapore. Thank you, Singapore. But we are a car-owning democracy, and in a car-owning democracy, it's really difficult to tax people. So we have really low fuel taxes. We're way down that end. Hardly any other rich countries, except the silly people in the USA, have lower fuel taxes than us. So, you know, the Europeans, all the sensible countries charge a lot more. And we almost do nothing to punish car drivers. Car-owning democracy. So we have to import this huge amount of fuel from other countries. Do you know how many weeks' supply we have in Australia of petroleum fuels? 2 weeks of supply. So if there is an international crisis, an international event, my country will suddenly have no petroleum fuels. This is a country where 80% of the travel is done in a stink car over large distances. We are absolutely desperate to maintain this supply. We've now bought a strategic supply of petroleum fuels, but it is now located in the USA, in the mainland states of the USA. Nuts, absolutely nuts. And that was a government knee-jerk response to realising this problem. We're now spending something like 360 billion Australian dollars, about 250 billion US dollars, on 6 nuclear submarines so that we can get this oil into our country. Nuts. Crazy stuff we can't afford. So our whole politics is being captured by this. But this is what the end result of all of this has been. Australians are living in what we call an obesogenic environment. Obesogenic environment. You drive your children to school. Most children are driven to school. They don't get any activity or physical activity. You drive them home via the drive-in McDonald's or KFC, or we even have Thai restaurants that do this. Or you Uber Eats it to your house. You don't actually go anywhere or do anything. And so we have this climbing problem of overweight and obesity. So urban planners have started to realize this and are trying to reinsert healthy city frameworks into urban planning. This is good. So World Healthy Cities initiatives and these kinds of things. And this is leading to lots of conversations about how we should change Australian cities. These are the same ideas that will work in Thai cities, they will work in Japanese cities, they will work everywhere. They're the same set of good ideas. And yet we've got lots of action plans and lots of ideas and policy documents coming out, but in the key areas, almost zero implementation. It's really tragic how bad and slow implementation of these ideas is. So there's people like Professor Parwini and myself fighting the good fight, saying we need to change, we need to do things differently. But it really is the problem of the individual sectors in society, like my transport sector. I just amazingly went forward a lot of slides. I went super fast forward. Let me go back. All right. I've got about 6 minutes. So some of the things that we need to change in my country. Let me move forward. EVs. We have had prime ministers in recent years who fought elections against electric vehicles and won. Crazy stuff. Absolutely crazy stuff. We've had no incentives for adoption. We haven't had good fuel standards. We've only just in the last couple of years introduced a national EV strategy. Get on with this in Thailand. This is a car that I think would be fantastic in Australia, but this is not a safe vehicle according to our laws for import because it doesn't have a good barrier door here. So when the big American stink truck crashes into this car, so this is a non-safe vehicle according to my, and yet it doesn't pollute anyone. It would be a fantastic second car for most Australians, for the car that does the local travel. It's way cheaper than the big, huge American thing. This is being sold for about $8,000 in China. Fantastic vehicle. This kind of technology that is sweeping Asia still hasn't made it to Australia. Electric motorbikes are very uncommon. They've got lots of problems in terms of regulation, licensing, and registration. Although I have to say, one great initiative that's just happened this week in Thailand, finally clamping down on helmet law. Really good to see. There's a big national initiative. You need to get on with this. I'll talk about some of these other things. But the key policies that will work, you only have to walk outside this conference venue and look at the little side street where the 7-Eleven is. You haven't resolved in Thai cities who owns the footpath, who regulates the footpath, who maintains the footpath, and what program you will have to bring in 20th century footpaths into your cities. Not 21st century, where China was in the 20th century. They went through all these problems. They have made the improvements. You've got some catching up to do. And in Australia, the big fight is over bikeways. You see this barrier? You see this barrier here? This is what makes the difference. You have to keep the cars out. You have to claim the road space from the car and give it to better users. So we need to drop our street speeds. Most ASEAN countries need to do the same thing. In Indonesia, it's 40 km per hour. In the local streets in Jakarta, that's still too high. We think we're giving safety to children when we put in 40k. World's best practice is that all the local streets are 30. We're crazy in Australia. And you need to also do this in Thai cities. We've really resolved now in many local governments in Australia how you can reclaim road space, like car parking, and give it over to better uses. So there's now lots of policies that have come in at state government and local government level that say at some times of the day, sometimes of the year, like tourist season, you can now claim a car park in front of your business and convert it into cafe space. You can do other things that are better than a single stupid car park. And we should remember, the average car in Australia now only carries 1.1 humans. The average car trip in Australia is just 1.1 humans. 50 years ago, it was 1.6. During World War II, it was over 2 because of petrol rationing. We don't share our cars. And now I'm really scared that the IT people have worked out how to have cars with 0 humans in them, contributing to the really bad traffic congestion in my city. I'm worried about, Waymo. So you have a to-do list here. We've got to get rid of this exclusionary land use zoning where we keep the land uses too far apart. Get these light electric vehicles into your cities at slow speeds. This one in Paris is speed limited to 50 kilometers per hour. It's a light, safe little vehicle. Get these kinds of vehicles into your car fleet. Build up your bike lane networks, get your footpaths going, get the infrastructure for a healthy city together, get your street speeds down, and suddenly children will ride bikes again. Children will play in the streets again. You'll be able to walk to more destinations, shops and activities. You will not have an obesogenic environment. And maybe if we do this in Australia and you do this in Thailand, people's waistlines will start to go the other way. And that's what we want. Healthy, resilient cities that don't rely on foreign oil. So if there is a war or something, my economy, my country will collapse. Society will collapse because we've built this entire system on stinkers.
Wow, thank you so much, Dr. Matthew. I have to welcome you to the stage again. And I have one quick question, just one quick question for you.
Fire away.
Could you please give the key takeaway from the Australia's success and failure to the Asian cities so that they can adopt and adapt the change in Australia?
Key takeaway, get moving. Don't accept your transport engineering department saying it is too hard. We won't change. We have a road hierarchy. We know how to plan the roads. Go away, urban planners. Go away, healthy cities people. Right? Because they say this. It's too hard. It's too difficult. We don't know where to start. This is all rubbish. It is crap. We know where to start. We've got examples from overseas to follow. Things like movement and place planning frameworks to redo road hierarchies. We can look to good examples in Asia, in China, Japan, Taiwan and elsewhere to borrow good principles. You don't have to look to the white-skinned people, and get the white-skinned expert to come and tell you. There's plenty of good, and you can go to cities that have worked this out, and even towns. The best place to walk in Asia is a little town in Vietnam called Hoi An. It gets more tourists per capita than any other place in all of Vietnam. Why? Because to keep its heritage listing, they had to bring in a transport plan that banned cars and made it very pedestrian friendly. And it's the only place almost in Vietnam where you can walk and not be killed by motorbikes and other things coming at you. And tourists went boom, and they just bang. We love to walk in these spaces. What is a shopping mall? It's one of those places. I could talk forever. I'll leave it at that.
Thank you so much.